All right, welcome everybody. This is week 8 of my Superset experimental workout, and I had a couple weeks where I was out of town. But I'm back at it, and I've been focusing more on the Sumo for this week. So I'm going to be talking about the Sumo specifically, and then for the other exercises, I'll talk a bit about Pretium, which is one of my more successful junior mining stock picks in the past. Here's the exercises. And yeah, so starting with the squat, just doing that for form, obviously, and working on getting nice and deep with my squats as I add weight. But yeah, so getting into Pretium. Pretium Resources is a junior mining company. It was back in 2013 is when I bought it, and specifically October 2013 when it had a little bit of a dip. And that dip happened. I've attached an article that describes what happened at the time. The engineering company that was handling its resource estimate had a little bit of a controversy around the way it was handling resources, and it ended up being just quite a technical discussion, but it was enough at the time to shake investor confidence, and people sold off on the news. There was really nothing else going on in the broader market for anything else to be selling off. It was just Pretium, and they had like an exceptional resource, like the best one in the province. It made sense that there was a certain natural suspicion in the market for that sort of a resource at the time. Of course, you have examples like briex where geologists were salting their core. So that was I think that had something to do with it. But if you went in and actually read it with a kind of an understanding of how resource estimates are done, there was really no reason for that controversy to have caused a huge sell-off. So that was the end of it. That's really basically what happened. I just bought it because it dropped off like really hard. If you check the historical stock price, it dropped down into the threes. I bought around 4.5 and then ended up selling it kind of early-ish middle last year at around $14. So I managed to get close to 3 times my money on that. And over the 7 years, it works out to about a 17% compound annual growth return, which beats out the S&P for that same time period, which would have been about 12.5% for that same time period. And actually, if I had been somebody who was actively trading the market, I could have easily sold that thing after 3 years and made the same return. And that would have been a 40-something% CAGR. And actually, for whatever reason, it just kind of traded up and down in that range until it eventually got bought out by Newcrest just earlier this year in March. So yeah, I mean, that's what it was all about. And Pretium is, they were kind of one of the real market leaders as far as junior miners and junior deposits go, headed up by a fellow named Bob Quartermaine. And Bob Quartermaine, there's like a few geologist executives in the industry that they kind of get the reputation of being what you'd call like a broken slot machine. Okay, so I'm going to take a break now and focus on the Sumo. And so Sumo deadlift with the wider legs. What I'm doing here is just kind of practicing loading my body and giving you don't see the pros do this, but trying to really bring my hips down and shoulders up to load the spine. Like the pros will do it, but it'll be a lot more smooth and seamless when they do it. When I'm doing it like this, it's very jerky. But I think like I was doing it just to really kind of get the feel for it and to practice. And I'm paying a lot of attention because the deadlift is really a back exercise. You got to get your back strong to be able to do it, and it's got to be straight on the way up, and it's got to be straight on the way down. So I have been kind of focusing a lot on how my back's doing. Like, it's rounding there on the way down. It's keeping decently straight on the way up, but round by the time it hits the ground. And the rounding on the way down is for sure a way that you can injure it. You run as much risk of injury rounding on the way down as you do on the way up. So that is something that is kind of a no-no and a piece of form that I do have to correct as I'm going. That was a very bad one. Like, I kind of fell over on my way down on that one, falling forward even. So too heavy and form, and just getting my back really, like, I was focusing on the squats in past weeks, so I have been doing a lot more videos about deadlifts this time. Okay, so here's the cat stance. I don't have much to say about it this time. I'm going to get back into Pretium and more about what the gold market was about back in kind of 2013. So I had been out of the gold exploration camp. I got laid off. Maybe like the top was already in and the price was coming down. And when I got laid off was maybe a month or 6 weeks before it really, really dropped off. So at that point, I wasn't too worried about it. I was fresh out of university, so I was going to just go and find other work and make it happen. I had some cash and I was learning how to invest. So I wasn't worrying too much about, like, I knew I was going to have lots of time to study. So that's kind of what I did. Signed up to all sorts of gold newsletters, and mining.com was kind of the main place where I was getting news about the industry, and I followed mining.com pretty regularly for a good 4 or 5 years before we switched gears and came down to the Philippines to start our electric vehicle company. And yeah, so back to Bob Quartermaine. I ended up seeing him in the Prospectors Developers Association of Canada conference. He was a keynote speaker for that event. And interestingly, he made a comment. One of the comment that really sticks out in my mind of all the things that he said this many years later is how he said to know your enemy. And he was talking about Russia. So I guess, I mean, considering the time, like, I wasn't following politics at the time, but that would have been probably related to the invasion of Crimea and the annexing of Crimea. I would have to go in and look at specifically the timeline, but that must have been what he was talking about. But he didn't give that much detail, or if he did, it slipped my memory by this point. But there was another thing that was going on at the time. There was this political cartoon that I had seen in a couple places before that, but that one guy actually put into his presentation just before Bob Quartermaine came on. And it was the one, some of you might remember it, of China throwing US dollars across the tennis court and Americans throwing bars of gold at China over the tennis court, being on opposing sides, of course. And the cartoon was called The Currency Wars. So that was kind of a funny, and that was what was going on at the time. So you had China and Russia at the time kind of loading up on gold and hard asset reserves. Because I know that there's a certain amount of gold bullishness in the market, and some of the channels that I'm talking to, or different people that I'm talking to, are interested in it. So, I mean, definitely not all of my gold picks were winners. Not all of my market timing for buying gold or gold juniors was good timing. And so I think that some of that experience is worth sharing, and just to help give some perspective and help us think back, because we all understand that history rhymes sometimes, doesn't tell us what's going to happen next, but experience does help us when we're thinking about where we're going next. So yeah, that was Pretium. Pretium was like, I mean, I bought it and it was just in the money from day one, and never went in the red, because if you check the historical price of it, it basically just went down and came back up again on purely news. And it's just something that happens in niche industries like mining. It's a volatile sector, and there's all sorts of things that can go wrong in a mining venture as it's going from discovery up until producing mine, permitting and whatnot. So, and it's a science-driven thing. Like, you got geologists trying to figure out what is actually going on down there. So hopefully that was helpful, and I'll try and do another video like this again some other time with some other junior mining stocks and deep value and other small caps. So thanks for listening, and maybe you'll join me for another one sometime. Take care.